This is live now.
Look at that. How would you look at that? Okay, well, you say who you are first.
Sure. My name is Brian Ivie. I am I'm getting notifications on my computer here. I'm the director of the Dropbox documentary film and writer of the corresponding book, The Dropbox, and I became a Christian while making a movie.
So
So
the
you can tell that
Dropbox
story.
is the cloud where they store images and files. You wrote a
Yes,
book about that.
yes, yes. It is an 800-page manifesto, and I encourage all of you to buy it for $164.99.
Oh boy.
No, it is actually, and I love that people confuse it actually, because when people think it's a book or a movie about file sharing websites, it's actually it's actually a movie about a drop-off site for babies in one of the poorest neighborhoods. It's a story that I picked up in the LA Times. I read an article about this guy a few years ago and then chased it down. And now it's a feature film in theaters tonight as well as a couple weeks ago. So this is the last night.
This is the last night. Okay. So
Yeah.
I was trying to follow when it was, and it's at select theaters. Is it gonna go
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
so like
so
Netflix, or are you thinking like what?
yeah, so the cool thing about it is a doc like this normally gets very little screen time at all because it's in another language, it's the whole thing. But we opted to do a Fathom event, which means that it plays in a large amount of theaters for a very short window of time. So we had 4 nights in theaters, but it played in over 800 theaters in North America. So for a film like ours, it's an incredible amount. That's a big net. And so we've done really well at the box office so far, and tonight's the encore presentation. So this was not planned. This is just, it was a demand-based release. So it's just tonight, and then it'll go on Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, and all those VOD platforms as well.
Okay. And then it'll probably be picked up and be played mainstream theaters like crazy because everyone wants to see more of it.
Let's hope so.
Um,
Let us hope so.
okay, then back up to you were reading an article and you're just
Yeah.
like, this is really interesting. You weren't a believer then?
No, definitely not. I mean, I thought I was, just like most
Oh.
people do. I thought I was a Christian because I wasn't a Muslim. I think that's a lot of people. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people think they're Christians because they're Americans. And so I read an article about Pastor Lee on June 20th of 2011. It was called "South Korean Pastor Tends an Unwanted Flock." And it was all about this man in Korea who had built a depository for disabled babies onto his house. And you don't have to be anything in particular to be compelled by that story. He had wanted to know why he did it, when he did it, how he did it, and I wanted to go to Sundance Film Festival, and I thought this would be my golden ticket. So I sent an email to Pastor Lee. A month later, he sent an email back to me and said, "I don't know what it means to make a documentary film, but you can come live with me if you want." And that's how it all started.
Okay. So you're just like, all right, I'm just going to travel around the world now and make a film for
Yeah,
the heck of it. And it was more about just making some cash and the Sundance Festival.
yeah, and I think there was something about it that went into my bones, like a lot of the best stories did, because I was always chasing down those kind of things. I wanted a story of a man who seemed to be encountering something I might encounter. He wasn't on Gettysburg, or he wasn't in a battlefield in Iraq. He was just in his neighborhood, but it
Yeah.
was life and death circumstances, and I felt like it was something anyone could stumble into. And those are the stories we really relate to, I feel like,
Yeah.
and so that's where it started for me.
Okay, and then when along the lines did you click and be like, oh, okay, so this Christian thing is a little bit different than I thought it was?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my up in Orange County. So, in other words, I grew up with my life on a silver platter, and Christianity to me was kind of Christmas and Easter. It was just a part of my life. Jesus, get in the trunk, sort of thing. It wasn't like take the wheel. So, But I thought I was a Christian because I didn't smoke cigarettes, and I watched Fox News with my mom. It was just what you called yourself. It was decorative. But what I saw in Pastor Lee was a dude who wasn't afraid to be known and who had done a lot of terrible things. Like
Yeah.
he was an alcoholic. He was an abusive father. He had beat up people severely, put him in the hospital, type of stuff, and yet it didn't seem like he was bragging about that when he would talk about it. But to me, Christians were always the perfect people. And
Yeah.
then I realized that they were the ones who knew they weren't even good. And this man wasn't a natural born hero, but that God saved him in order to save these kids. And I started really feeling like maybe that people were the proof of God. And this man was one of those people.
People were the proof of God. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about something else, and then that line just stuck out to me, so now I forgot what I was thinking. But I was thinking about this might be tangential, and it might not be a scripted question for an interview
Sure.
of any kind, but mission. I think a lot about like missional churches and all that stuff, and
Sure.
it's a buzzword right now, and maybe that's why I'm thinking of it. But what Pastor Lee was doing maybe refine what the church could be or should be or is doing
Sure.
as far as missional ministry goes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, no one feels like church, even people that go to church, should be just Sundays. You're busy and the whole thing. I think
Yeah.
for me, even I saw that as really fake, and I didn't understand how that could possibly be what people were giving their lives for. Let alone, I mean, goodness gracious, I mean, I wouldn't even give my time for that. There had to be
Mhm.
something adventurous, bold, sacrificial about it. And I think what Pastor Lee showed me is that he was the church, and it wasn't about the four walls and that stuff. And everybody, and we say that now. I hear people say that all the time, but he actually died every day. Like that man really lived for other people. But he didn't start that way. So it was this idea that he was one way, God got involved, he became different, and then he did that for the rest of his life. And some things he would have never cared about or considered doing. And so when I hear the word missional church,
Mhm.
um, of course I think of Pastor Lee as the epitome of that, because that's what I'm looking for. Like that makes my whole world seem fake when I see real life lived like that, and that's what I wanted to be a part of, and that's what drew me in, and I think it could draw a lot of other people in too.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just like I don't know. We see this like packaged American church, and this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like he's like, no, it's nothing like that. It's just this is
No.
kind of who I am, and this is what Christ has done for me and made me, and
Yeah. It
it's all.
can't be it can't be boring. Like impossible. If like this is supposed to be what I'm made for, it's not gonna look that way. And I think that's what Pastor Lee did. And not in like an arrogant way, but just like an obvious way. Well, this is what I will do. I will give my life for those that can't speak, stand, or do anything for themselves, which is exactly what God did for us. And that's why it's a picture of something so much higher, that this man gave everything for these lost kids, just like God's given everything for us. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then back to the. It's good. I think that's a good chat. And you could keep chatting about that. About the film, and
yeah,
then okay, so next step would be it's moving to like this digital format, and
sure.
so there's no way that we could, or anybody watching this or listening or whatever, could support you necessarily, or how does that work?
Sure. So, obviously Pastor Lee's Dropbox was this desperate act of compassion, but what he always wanted was to develop an NGO that was going to be like the hopeful act of justice, to go to the source of the problem, to do more holistic work. And so what I
Yes.
and my team here in the States have helped him start is what's called Kindred Image. And the goal of that organization, of course, is the same goal he had, is to basically see an end to abandonment and close the door of this box one day because it's not needed anymore. So Kindred wants to run itself out of business, but if people want to support the care Pastor Lee gives to the mothers in crisis and the kids, they can do that, and they can go to kindredimage.org. And so the goal too was like, instead of people throwing money into Pastor Lee's bank account, they can give it to a transparent mechanism that's responsible and can track that money's impact, all the way from wherever in the world to Pastor Lee's neighborhood. And so it's used responsibly and used well for the best measurable impact, and Pastor Lee's heartbeats running through all of it. So
And he's still involved, or no?
yeah, this kind of stuff, just telling people about it, being at the megaphone and sharing his story so that he can continue to do the work that he's always done.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, I mean I got a a nutshell of what's going on, and then what the
Sure,
film's about, and then how we can further support you.
sure.
Any other last minute things?
Um, we'll see. Do you want to talk about the film or the book? Because
Tell
I
me
can
about
talk.
what's different about the book then.
Sure.
The
Well,
assumption is that they're the same, and so that's what I did wrong.
yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, the book is actually more about how Pastor Lee was living proof of a loving God to me and changed my whole life inside and out by
Okay.
the way he lived out the gospel. So the
So it's
book
more
is my
your own
song.
story.
Yeah, the book is my song for the suburbs, and it's a story of how my greatest mistake in life was thinking that I didn't need to be saved. And when I realized that by seeing these kids and seeing God the Father and Pastor Lee, my whole life changed, and my hope is that it would change a lot of other people and wake people up to the gospel right here in the American dream. And so
We
that's what the
already
book's
have
about.
it all.
Yeah, right.
We already have it all. Um, okay, so that's what the book is about, and
Yeah.
is it just more your own? Is it like a story of writing the documentary then, almost?
Yeah, it's the story from the very beginning of when I read the article, or really when I was 9 years old, when I wanted to start making movies, Lord of the Rings and James Bond and Harry Potter and all that kind of stuff, all the way
Those are
through.
completely different people, all
Yes,
of
they
them.
are.
That was random.
I know. And so those are the films I made when I was little. But they were all about battles, right? Good versus evil.
Yeah.
And so with me, that's what I saw in Pastor Lee, somebody who is fighting evil in his own neighborhood. And so it's all similar. And so this is what the book's about. It's about me going through this, meeting this man, being changed forever, and then hopefully continuing with him the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's solid. And so the movie is focused on the family. That's who's backed it, right? And
Yep,
then the book is David C. Cook.
correct.
Okay, super. I will make sure I add those in the post as well.
Love
Cool.
it.
Well, I appreciate it, Brian. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
want to keep
Jason,
you.
thank you, bro. No
Yeah.
problem.
I think we could
Thanks a
chat
lot, man.
more, but I don't want
We
to
could.
have a super long video for everybody either. Um,
Of course not. And you got a game to catch.
well, I do. The Cavs and the Heat, but it's not going to really matter. The
I'll
Cavs
keep
will be
making.
fine.
I don't watch sports. I make movies, so I'll leave you to it.
Speaking of movie maker, who didn't know how to start a Google Hangout? Oh, that's live.
I know. See,
Sorry.
that's what we got to. Goodbye, Jason.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.